Good morning, everyone. My name is Jared Solomon. I want to bring this meeting of Veterans Affairs Emergency Preparedness to order. Representative Watro, please lead us in the pledge. Jamie, please call the roll.
Chairman Solomon.
Here.
Representative Borowski. Representative Brown, designation. Representative Doherty. Representative Genst. Representative Haddock. Representative Ingalls, designation. Representative Monroe, designation. Representative O'Mara, designation. Representative Pielli. Representative Sappi, designation. Representative Scott. Representative Takak, designation. Representative Webster, designation. Chairman Gillen. Representative Banta. Representative Bashline. Representative Cooper. Representative Ham.
Designation.
Representative Kerwin.
Designation.
Representative Krupa.
Designation.
Representative Major. Representative Rigby. Representative Stender. Representative Watro. Representative Williams.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Jamie. We have Representative Craig Williams and Representative Paul Takak online joining us. A couple of housekeeping notes. First of all, I'd like to welcome our intern for the next few days, Anthony Williams. Please say hello. He is a second year at Villanova Law. My wife taught him in law school, and we all want to welcome you to Veterans Affairs Committee. So please. Chairman Gillen has a few housekeeping items.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the phone call last evening, wishing me a happy Father's Day. Right back to you and all fathers. I had a great time at Olive Garden with my daughters, especially since for the first time in many, many months, they paid for Dad to have dinner. Yeah, I wanted to mention the Fire Ops 101. We were with the Pittsburgh firefighters, and this is one of those arenas that we enter into, which is relatively uncommon because we put the gear on, the air packs, and we went into simulated burning buildings, but there was actually fire down in a bunker in a very narrow space. So that amphibian-like, we had to crawl through pipes and pull a victim out. I think it's important for us as members of the committee that are voting, that are appropriating money, that are making decisions regarding the lives of other people, whether it be firefighters, emergency medical services, veterans, to actually, when possible, to gear up and to participate in a program. It's the second time that I've been involved in the program. This time around, Paul Takak, I believe, is down that direction. Chairman Solomon geared up as well. Kerry Vagno over there on the staff side of the equation. Mike Hillman here. And then Connor O'Leary. So this is one of these opportunities where not only the members get to participate, but you have the staff as well. I think it makes us better legislators. I think it improves the quality of the staffing. And there are a few moments where you have to suck it up when you're there. And if you're honest, you would say, that's something I've never been through quite the same way before. And so I commend those that were able to participate. And if you have the opportunity in the future with the Pittsburgh firefighters or other firefighters, please do participate. I was involved in a ceremony back in my home district. A little bit of a sad note, almost shocking that a municipality of 7,000 people would have 3 different fatal fires in the course of a year and a half, one of which was on my own street. And firefighters went in. In this case was volunteer firefighters. They rendered valiant assistance, and several of them ended up in the hospital as a consequence. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for those words, Chairman Gillen. Now to our 2 items of business. First, we will take up Senate Bill 89. Before taking up the underlying legislation, we have an amendment, Amendment 1094, authored by Representative Takak. Representative, are you prepared to speak on the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, if Mike Hillman could do it for me, I am remote and don't trust my signal. Thank you.
Certainly. And we're also joined by Representative Sappi. Mike and Representative Webster.
Amendment 1094 to Senate Bill 89 clarifies that a patient care report shall satisfy the requirements of the bill for an EMS provider.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any questions or comments on A1094? Chairman Gillen, anything? Any negative votes? A1094 is adopted. Now on to the underlying bill as amended, Senate Bill 89. Are there any comments or questions on Senate Bill 89? Mike, for a brief explanation of the amended bill, Senate Bill 89.
Senate Bill 89, offered by Senator Mastriano, requires that EMS providers report known or suspected overdoses through an online platform to be integrated into the Pennsylvania State Police's overdose tracking database.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions or comments? Chairman Gillen, anything, or we're good? Any negative votes? Senate Bill 89 moves to the House floor as amended. We are also joined by Representative Probst, if you want to come up for your legislation. House Bill 1257. And Representative Lawrence, thank you for being here today. We will get to two amendments that are going to be offered, but first to you, Representative Probst, for your remarks.
Well, thank you again to the committee and, yes, it is. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Thank you again to the committee and Chairman Solomon and Gillen for having me. So I'm just going to read my remarks, and I just hope that this piece really gets through this time. So thank you again for having me here today. House Bill 1257 will relieve just a small portion of the debt that we owe to our veterans and their families who have sacrificed their well-being and in some cases their lives in service to us. As I addressed at the public hearing on this bill back in May, when I speak with veterans in my district, they so often want to discuss their eligibility for disabled veterans' real estate tax exemption. Many are frustrated that despite their honorable service, including recognition of service-connected disability by the VA, they are not eligible for any property tax relief. They turn their eyes to surrounding states such as New Jersey and New York and ask why they should continue to live here in Pennsylvania when they would be financially better off somewhere else. This is not what we want for our Commonwealth. Next year, we will celebrate the 250th anniversary of America all across this nation, and our Keystone State was the cradle of this great experiment in so many ways. The U.S. Army, which we have celebrated so grandly over the past week, was created by an act of the Second Continental Congress meeting in the Pennsylvania State House in Philadelphia. Soon we will mark the 250th birthday of the United States Marine Corps, created again in Pennsylvania. Independence was declared here. Washington was victorious here. General Grant turned the tide of the Civil War here. The Pennsylvania story is America's story, and this is because of the sacrifices of those who wore the uniform. We have led this nation through 2.5 centuries, and we must continue to lead by thanking our veterans in a real way. House Bill 1257 is a strong expansion of the Disabled Veterans Real Estate Tax Program, and I'm a proud sponsor of the bill. The bill removes the requirement that a veteran served in conflict to be eligible, which recognizes that training missions and peacekeeping missions are also essential to our national security. It expands eligibility also to the surviving spouses of service members who were killed in action, went missing in action, or were taken prisoner of war. a recognition long overdue for the families of service members who have given all of themselves. If House Bill 1257 became law in its current form, we would be taking a big step towards showing real recognition to our military veterans and their families. But since our public hearing last month, this proposal has taken a new exciting shape, one that pushes Pennsylvania even further ahead. Today, you will consider an amendment that recognizes that not every wounded warrior is eligible for a 100% disability rating from the VA despite their sacrifices. Today, you will have the chance to grant a partial property tax exemption to veterans who have at least a 50% disability rating, which will be a lifeline to thousands of veterans who are hard-pressed to meet all of their debts. This is a chance to pay our debt. And as the prime sponsor of House Bill 1257, I urge you to support this bill along with Amendment A01082 to set the standard for showing real appreciation to veterans. For too long, we have all allowed states like Florida and Texas to outflank us in this regard. And today we have the chance to begin in a push to position Pennsylvania as a destination for veterans to live, work, and retire. I want to thank Chairman Solomon and Chairman Gillen for their leadership and their hard work on this proposal. As a former mayor and a passionate public education advocate, I know that property tax dollars are a key revenue source for vital programs and the services across the Commonwealth. But I will remain committed to funding those programs and services in a responsible and equitable way. There's no reason we cannot walk and chew gum at the same time, and we should not balance our budgets on the backs of veterans who have already broken theirs for us. Thank you for considering House Bill 1257 today, and I urge you to lend your voice and your vote to this transformative new approach to valuing our veterans. And on a final note, I always tell you that I have two brothers that are veterans from the United States Air Force, and I also have two stepsons on the Army National Guard, and I just gained a daughter-in-law in the United States Air Force, so we've expanded the military family. So thank you again.
Representative Probst, thank you so much. Thank you. We have two amendments. First, I'll take a motion from Representative Cooper to bring up Chairman Gillen's Amendment A1078. Chairman Gillen.
Thank you very much, and I want to commend the maker of the parent bill. I see very little difference as I look around the room and our perspective relative to the need for this. We've talked about it for years. I think I'm probably the longest-serving member of the committee, which you can hold me culpable since I've been around a long time that it hasn't gotten done up until now. We have a sacred responsibility. I wish my dad was here. I mention him because he's been gone since 1982, and he was a man who put the uniform on. It was the Second World War. It was a different conflict, but he came back damaged in mind and body. And so when I think of disabilities, I think of my dad. I think of my daughter, who's now entering the service, and so you have to think about the possibilities that could occur down the highway. And there's certain invulnerable pillars relative to this legislation, which I absolutely support. So you acquired the disability in war or armed conflict. You get the rating and you get the property tax abatement. That's not enough. I think we all agree. If your Jeep overturns or you're involved in some sort of an accident, you're rendered 100% disabled, then absolutely you should get the property tax abatement. It further expands into the arena of POW, MIA, your survivor benefits, killed in action. And I intend to withdraw my amendment, and I shared this with Representative Solomon in advance because I wanted to use the amendment as an awareness raiser on the issue. Relative to the shall and the may provisions, somebody obviously has to pay for this. There are no state dollars, and in order to secure sustainability, whenever we have a program, we have to look over our shoulder and say, who's going to pick up the tab on this? Well, when we have the parent bill before us, I'll have a few questions with regard to that. I come from a borough of 3,000 people, and there's probably a higher density of veterans in the southeast. And so when we provide a benefit for a group of people, much needed, an expanded benefit, then we have a fiduciary responsibility to answer who's actually going to pay for this. Relative to the issue of the means testing, the State Veterans Commission has been assigned that responsibility. And the means testing to enter into the program for 100% property tax abatement is a ceiling of $114,000 a year. The bill would remove the means testing. And so I think we have to look at then who pays for that, and conceivably that would be other veterans. And I put this out for discussion purposes. I intend not to be visceral today, but we have to take our responsibility, our financial responsibilities seriously relative to securing the viability of the program moving forward. Relative to the incremental of 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% disability, I'm not the least bit in variance that we need to take that into account to help our veterans who served and they've sustained some sort of an injury or disability. I suppose the mild contrast, again, would be on the may versus the shall provision. My perspective is that those that are paying the freight, those that are having to balance the budget, and I believe you are a mayor of a local municipality, if I'm not mistaken, certainly want to give people like you a voice in the level of property tax abatement. Property tax is a huge issue in our area, so I speak from a zip code perspective. It is the number one topic of conversation around the water cooler. It's the number one topic of conversation when somebody comes in to visit the office. It is the number one concern of senior citizens in my district. And so we absolutely want to do everything that we can because we have an eternal responsibility to our veterans, but we also have a responsibility to people who are trying to stay in their homes. The construct of the program relative to paraplegic, quadriplegic, amputees, the very essence of the program was to make sure those valiant heroes stayed in their homes, that they did not lose their property. And I think we're all heavily invested in that, and the wisdom of our forefathers, in the language of the Constitution. It also had a provision relative to means testing, so that you absolutely would be in a position to stay in your home if you couldn't pay your property tax or your bills. This tilts in a slightly different direction, and we've had really great conversations on the phone with our colleagues on the other side of the building. So in the spirit of raising the awareness of these issues, I offered the amendment, but I will withdraw the amendment, but I certainly would give others the opportunity to speak to the amendment with the chairman's permission, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I appreciate that, Chairman Gillen. And this, as you mentioned, this has been around for decades. First adopted in 1961. Subsequent efforts were stalled and then stopped, and I hope to join with you in being the committee to move this effort to get this to the finish line and to the people of Pennsylvania this year. I really appreciate that, Chairman Gillen. But others on the sentiment that Chairman Gillen expressed, if there are others that want to speak. We're on Chairman Gillen's amendment, correct? No one? Okay. Thank you again. Our second amendment, it's authored by me, but that was just a timing issue. We wanted to transfer this amendment to Representative Doherty, so I will be calling on him for comments on Amendment 1082. I will bring up the motion to bring up Representative Doherty's amendment. Representative Doherty.
Thank you, Chairman Solomon, Chairman Gillen, Mike, Representative Probst for bringing this bill This is personal to me in a sense. So my amendment clarifies eligibility and grants proportional tax relief to veterans rated at 50% disability or higher. So what that means is if you come back and depending on how you're assessed percentage-wise, that's the tax exemption relief you're given. When I say it's personal to me, I bring this because I have a close personal friend that served 2 tours of duty in the United States Marine Corps, active combat, and came back 100% disabled. This tax exemption changed his life for himself, his wife, and his 3 kids. To me, this is common sense because it's for all veterans. Thank you for your service is not enough. It's time we serve our veterans. I believe not only with this bill and your hard work and with this committee that we can do that and actually get things done to support our troops. I urge my fellow committee members for a yes vote on this amendment. And as a proud family member of many veterans and active duty currently, and I know I'm sitting next to Representative Joe Webster, but I have to say, go Army. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I forgot to mention, we're also joined by Representative Engels. Did I say that right this time? I've been practicing, Representative. I got it. I nailed it. Comments or questions on Representative Doherty's amendment? Chairman Gillen.
Thank you very much. Certainly very supportive. I've already articulated that. My only caveat was that I would prefer that we have a may versus a shall provision. And I received an email just a short while ago, and I think my concerns are reflected by some stakeholders, CCAP, relative to the outside. My concern doesn't raise to the level that I would recommend a no vote at this time. I shared with my colleagues, I want this to move forward. This is a constitutional amendment. This is not the last bite at the apple that we're going to have with this. Rather than the end of the assembly line, we have a relative circular assembly line here. If we were to pass this out, the exact same language were passed out of the Senate, then the earliest next vote on this would be in 2027, and then it would go to those that are paying the bills for ratification in the form of a referendum. And so thank you for the opportunity to share that, Mr. Solomon.
Thank you, Chairman Gillen. Are there any negative votes on the amendment? Representative Doherty's amendment 1082 is adopted unanimously. Now to the underlying bill as amended, House Bill 1257. Questions or comments? Representative Haddock.
I would like to thank the maker of the bill, Representative Prost, for her diligence on this. I know last session here, we passed the version of this in the House, and it didn't make much progress in the Senate, so we're back at the table. With Representative Doherty's amendment, the service people that have 50% or more disability will receive tax breaks. We all have our stories of people that have served our country with valor, and I'd like to tell you a story that when I was a child, certain times my great Aunt Rose and my great Uncle Bob would come over the house, and Aunt Rose would come up first while Uncle Bob, she'd run. And she'd say, guys, Uncle Bob's coming in the house, please, no Hogan's Heroes. If it comes on, shut it off. The reason being, my Uncle Bob was a prisoner of war in the original Stalag 13, And he would actually go a little berserk at that spoof. He saw what happened in that Stalag. His bomber, the Lonesome Polecat 2, was shot down over Germany, a crew of 10. 5 died, and 5 men lived. There were days my Uncle Bob wished he didn't live. And he was viewed at less than 100% with the VA. This bill would do justice for the brave men and women that served our country and the hundreds of thousands like Uncle Bob McKeegan, my great uncle. I commend the maker of the bill, and I'm certainly hoping with this particular tweak to the bill that we could get it done and give the ones that have been the most effective for the service of our country and our great state justice. Because thank you for your service isn't enough. That's an old saying. But my father always said, time to decorate the mahogany. And that's the other half of the story. We have to pay back to those that paid so much, including the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Borowski.
Thank you, Chair Madden and Chair Gilden, and thank you, Representative Probst, for this legislation. I know that we have seen it before. Sadly, this is only my second term, and to see legislation like this already coming back because it wasn't able to move last session is certainly disappointing. So I am hopeful that we'll be able to move it this session. I have over 2,500 veterans in my district. I have many who will probably in some way qualify for this exemption if it becomes available. And I hear Chair Gillen when he talks about the concern about, where are we going to fund this? And certainly it will become the responsibility of the local municipalities and our school districts to address this and figure that out, because that's how we fund things here in Pennsylvania. But I think that as a significant and meaningful way of recognizing and thanking our veterans for their service, for their sacrifices and the sacrifices of their families, and to allow them some flexibility. So whether it's to stay in their homes, whether it's to adapt their homes if that is needed and they need funds to be able to do that, if there is investment that they can make in their families and their children's futures. I think that this is an excellent way of saying thank you for your service. We appreciate it, and we recognize your sacrifice. So I will be a yes on this vote, and I thank you very much for bringing this forward.
Other comments, questions? Chairman Gillen.
These past couple weekends, which is very typical in my life, I spent time with veterans either at the Berks Military History Museum, which I founded in Berks County, or the weekend before that, at the World War II weekend, where I'm regularly involved there. It's the 1st of June every year. I would encourage members of the committee, if they could avail themselves, to head out there. I was behind the wheelchair of Ed Szajowski, 100 years old. He'll be 101 in November. I introduced him on the floor of the House of Representatives here, and I had my daughter with me. I like to bring them over to experience these World War II heroes before they step off the scene. We have about half of 1% of those 16 million that are left, and I always consider it a very precious moment when I'm with them. Ed and others have asked me the same question, not about this bill specifically. He's not that much in the weeds. And my dad always raised the same question. Very frugal man. How much is it going to cost? How much does this cost? And I think it's a fair question if we could assess at some level what the proposal will cost. And that does not express an unwillingness on my part to pay the price. it's not pejorative. But informationally, I know that this program back in 2006 was about a $4 million program. Right now it's around $72 million, and the projections are significantly higher than that they've crested over $100 million. So I'm just curious as to we have any sense of the numbers of what the program will cost, and that's my final question, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll turn it to Mike or Rep. Probst for any projections, but I want to zoom out for a second. We in Pennsylvania need to become more competitive on attracting veterans right here. We are being beat, outpaced by other states, and have been for a long time. Between 2012 and 2022, Pennsylvania has lost over 31% of our veteran populations, while Florida and Texas have put in smart, effective policies. By the way, two states that are not liberal bastions in terms of thought and practice, but they have taken measures to bring in veterans. And those veterans have made decisions to live, work, raise a family in their respective states. We have not done that here in the Commonwealth. Now, there are a lot of discussions about other sectors, other pieces of legislation. We spend billions, healthcare, education, tax credits for businesses. But I don't hear the searching inquiry constantly about the dollars. And every time in budget season, it is a moral question. And for me, the moral imperative is to do what we can to serve our veterans and bring them here to Pennsylvania. That's where we're falling short. That's where this bill takes us. And I encourage this committee to produce a unanimous vote and work to get this done, to put this question to all Pennsylvanians. Now, Mike, on the budget projections.
Sorry to disappoint, but I don't have a strong budget projection for you, but I do have some data for you. The current program as it stands today, which is for 100% disabled veterans who served in conflict, there are about 23,000 on the program. Our best estimate of the total veterans rated at 100% disabled is 30,630. Now, DMVA gave us a number of 50,000, which I believe includes the disabled unemployment number, and there may be some other variances there. So 23,000 currently, 30,000 approximately who are 100%, possibly up to 50,000 if we include the disability unemployability portion. Veterans from 50 to 90% disabled is approximately 63,000. Now, where it gets really tough to get the numbers is the proportion of those who are homeowners, who this would apply to, the proportion who would choose to apply, and the expanded pool of eligible unmarried spouses. That's really hard to get at those numbers. So we're hopeful that we can work with the Appropriations Committee as they develop their fiscal note and get a bit of a better estimate at that point.
I would also just like to add that we're scaling up from 50%. Texas and Florida begin at 10%. They managed to do it, I think, because they have made a calculation that it is a priority in their particular state. And I think we need to do the same here in Pennsylvania. But please, on anything in addition, Chairman Gillen.
I just want to commend the staff. Mike and Sean do an exceptional job. They're really the guys that are in the know here. Thank you for that research. And we rely on you two gentlemen a great deal. And so thank you, Mike, for sharing that. I know you'll dig deeper for some of the financial numbers as they emerge. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any negative votes on House Bill 1257 as amended? House Bill 1257 as amended moves to the floor unanimously for consideration. Before we adjourn, Representative Scott had a brief remark.
Good morning, everybody. Just last week, one of my friends, a strong community leader, a family friend, joined the 22 Club. Walt Hartnett was a father, a veteran, a leader, and a friend. He was a sergeant in the U.S. Army, where he received Afghanistan Campaign Medal, with Campaign Star, an Army Commendation Medal, Army Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, Army Service Ribbon, Overseas Service Ribbon, and Armed Forces Reserve Medal with M device. Walt was the kind of person you only meet once in a lifetime. If you knew him, you knew that he was helping people. If you knew him, you know that helping people wasn't just something he did, it was a part of who he was. And if you were a veteran, well, you already know, you were at the front of the line. Not because you asked for it, but because Walt believed in honoring service. He believed in dignity. He believed in making sure no one who served was ever forgotten or overlooked. He brought that same devotion to his work at the Conshohocken VFW post. As quartermaster, he did way more than just manage the books. He kept the heart of the place beating. He loved that post. He loved the people in it. It was a second home to him, a place where service met community, where stories were shared, and where Walt always made sure the lights stayed on, the coffee was hot, and no one felt alone. But above all else, Walt loved his kids. His 4 children were the center of his world. Every story eventually centered back and came back to them. Whether it was a proud moment, a funny anecdote, or just a smile when he talked about them. His love was steady, his love was strong, and unmistakable. It's hard to say goodbye to somebody like Walt. His presence filled a room, not loudly, but with warmth, with loyalty, and with that quiet strength that made you feel like everything was going to be okay. And in this moment, I believe that's what Walt would want us to remember, that even though sorrow, we carry forward with what he gave us. His legacy lives on in his children, in the veterans he championed, in the friends he stood by, and in the community he served so faithfully. So let us honor him, not only in memory, but in action. Help someone when they least expect it. Listen deeply. Stand up for those who served. And love your people fiercely. Walt may have left this world, but his impact of his life, his service, his compassion, his love is still right here with us. Rest easy, Walt. We'll take it from here. And if you are a veteran, a service member, or a person concerned about one, you can connect with a professional on the Veterans Crisis Line through veteranscrisisline.net and text message 838-255. You can also dial 988 and press 1 to talk to someone 24/7. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, for the time.
Thank you, Representative Scott. And with that, we are adjourned.